story based on folk tales. I'm going to pick a story that's been written by a fellow Puneite. There's a gentleman called Salil Desai. He's a filmmaker, makes management and corporate films by day. I don't know by day or when, but that's his main job. But he's also an author otherwise and has written several books, which have all been published, which are good. And one of his recent books is called Lost Libido and Other Gulp Fiction. Okay, so because he writes typically stories with a twist, and they are crime stories. He typically writes crime stories. So this one, Lost Libido, is a collection of short stories, and I'm going to be narrating one of them, which is also a crime story. So this is Salil Desai, Hunch on a Highway. The story is not written in first person, but I will narrate it in first person, as if I am the protagonist of the story. The scene is the Pune Asiad bus stop. The other advantage of working with Salil Desai is he writes in familiar locations. Okay, so the scene is the Pune Asiad bus stop. The microphone is blaring. Please do not accept eatables from any unknown passengers. The announcer who is announcing it is probably resigned to the fact that nobody is listening to him. But I am paranoid about these things. And the moment I hear that, my ears perk up and I remind myself that yes, this is a very important piece of information. But as I look around, I see nobody seems to be bothered by this. And the announcer continues. Please do not pick up any unidentified baggage. I'm reminded of this as well. This is another important fact as well. I quite pride myself that maybe if I try hard enough, I will catch and I will detect a crook or a terrorist before the event happens. So, as I wait in the queue for my bus to start, I start examining all the passengers in front of me. They look like a typical middle class set out of some documentary on Indian middle class life. So, dissatisfied that I have not found any crook, I now start looking behind me. And as I'm looking at person by person in the queue behind me, I notice one short guy with very shifty eyes. And I'm convinced that he's up to something. So, I keep watching him. And keep on trying to notice, is there something peculiar about him? He has a haversack on his back. That could be something dangerous. He better not leave that on the bus and step out without it. And while I'm watching him, suddenly the person behind me, a tall, sophisticated, nice-looking gentleman carrying a laptop, tells me, "Bhai Sahab, the queue has gone ahead." And I'm most embarrassed because I didn't realize that the people ahead of me have already boarded the bus. So I mumble a sorry and I get onto the bus. I look for my seat, I place my bag there, and I sit down and I watch for my suspect as he's going to get onto the bus. Soon enough, he climbs onto the bus. And he seems to know exactly where his seat is. Just walks up to his seat. I feel this is something crazy. Nobody knows exactly where their seat is on a bus. But he seems to know the seating plan really well. So he puts his bag on the hook near the window, the haversack on the hook near the window, and sits down. And I notice he's sitting next to the tall gentleman with the laptop who was behind me, who egged me on when the queue had stopped. And I'm watching them very carefully. Now the bus starts and goes through the city and heads towards the highway. And almost if on cue, the moment the bus reaches the highway, my suspect strikes up a conversation with the gentleman next to him, the laptop guy, and starts talking to him. Now I'm of course a little too far back to hear what they're saying, but as I watch them, I can see that this is quite a one-sided conversation. The suspect is the one who's doing all the talking, and the laptop guy seems to be just nodding courteously. I'm just keeping my eyes peeled. All the remaining passengers are dozing off, talking on their cell phones, listening to music, but I have my eyes fixed on that suspect. I'm watching to see whether he makes one wrong move. To my greatest dismay, after about 20 minutes, the suspect stands up, opens his haversack and takes out a packet of biscuits. He opens the packet, cream biscuits, eats the first one and offers his neighbor a biscuit. And I'm just looking at this and saying, isn't this a scene out of any crime scene that you would imagine? Hasn't it happened on the same bus journey from Pune to Bombay on the Asiad that hundreds of times innocent passengers had eaten something offered by a co-passenger and then found that they were unconscious and came to their senses only after 24 hours, while their cash, mobile, ATM card, laptop, baggage was all vanished. In fact, I even heard of some cases where the poor poisoned passenger actually died. After hearing of this so often, can't people be more alert? And to my dismay, the laptop guy actually accepts the biscuit and he eats it. And at that moment, I'm very, very eager to get up and stop him. But you know, we all know that in India, no one eats by themselves. You can't eat by yourself. If you're eating something, you have to offer it to people around. There are biscuits here. You've seen that happen. And we didn't put any magic in it. So you have to offer people. So I realized that if I stand up now and stop him, it will seem out of place. And both people will actually take offense to my actually stopping him from eating something that his neighbor is offering. So I just decide, okay, let me just wait and watch. By itself, this is not a cognizable offense. So I can't stop the guy from offering food to his neighbor. So let me just wait and watch. And I'm waiting and watching, and I begin to notice that the laptop guy now seems very still. Now maybe he's fallen asleep, but maybe not. Maybe he's being drugged. And I'm watching, he doesn't seem to move. Within minutes, the bus drives into Khopoli, into the snack complex, and everybody stands up to get out of the bus. But both my suspect and the laptop guy don't move. Now, I'm wondering what to do. I decide, okay, let me just walk past them and have a look. So I get up, I stretch myself, and I walk past them, being particularly slow as I pass by their seat. And when I pass by, I see... Thanks. When I pass by, I see that the laptop guy is really sprawled out in the seat, like as if he's fast asleep, but he's motionless. And my suspect is sitting taut, and his eyes are still shifting here and there. I am now convinced that something is wrong, but I can't do anything because nothing actually has happened. So I get out of the bus and I look for the driver. But the driver, of course, has probably gone off to the place where drivers go and or gone for a leak or something like that. I can't find him. And I wonder now, what should I do? What should I do? And I decide that maybe the best thing to do, not to arouse suspicion, is let me stand some distance away from the bus, but let me watch that door at all times. And so I stand there watching that door. And can you guess what happens? In a few minutes, my suspect walks out of the bus with his haversack in one hand and the laptop guy's laptop on his shoulder. It takes me a few seconds to collect my thoughts, but I realized that my suspicion actually came true. I actually spotted a crime before it happened. And now it's happened. This guy's walking away with that guy's laptop. And he starts walking away towards the exit of the snack complex. And I can see in the distance that a motorcycle has suddenly appeared and there is a man there seemingly waiting for him. After I gather my thoughts, I finally manage to get my senses together and I shout, "Stop, stop, chor, chor!" And I start running after him. Hearing me, a lot of other passengers also join me and start running after him. Now the guy, the suspect, who's now the crook, I mean there's no suspect anymore, he is a crook. He looks back and he notices people are chasing him and he starts running. And of course he can run better than me, and he ran fast, he's putting more distance between us. The motorcycle guy has seen this happening and he started the bike and he's revving the engine waiting for the thief to catch up with him. The thief comes to the motorbike, gets on before we can reach him, and then revs the engine and puts it in the gear and shoots off, almost doing a wheelie. And when he does that, the laptop slips off this guy's shoulder. And as the laptop falls, he tries to grab it, but he can't. It hits the floor, and when it hits the floor, it explodes. And there's a huge explosion, and I'm thrown to the floor. And all the other people, passengers who were chasing them, are also thrown to the ground. When we finally come back to our senses, we realize that none of us are really injured. But most probably the biker and the thief have been blown to bits. And the laptop bag contained a huge bomb. Then of course, after 24 hours, when that laptop guy came to his senses, he found himself in a police lockup, being interrogated for planting a bomb on the bus. And I didn't know whether to be happy, proud of myself or not. I did spot a petty thief, but I missed the terrorist. And what bothers me even more till today is that had I not listened to my instinct and had I gone and confronted the crook, maybe the crook would have aborted his plan. And then what would have happened? Hunch on a highway was serving this. Thank you so much.